Hello, welcome to my first cooking show. I'm very excited, so is the dog. I drop things a lot. I'm making all beef glazed meatloaf, recipe from America's Test Kitchen. I have never made a recipe from America's Test Kitchen that I did not love. That's what's on the menu for today. I have all of my ingredients ready. There's all the ingredients. I like to put them in little bowls. It's a French thing called like mise en place or something like that. It means that putting everything in its place. It really makes putting a recipe together much easier when you have everything pre-measured, ready to go, right like at arm's length. So I did all of my prep work a little while ago. It took about 30 minutes, not too shabby. So this recipe starts by sauteing onion and celery in butter. So yum, that's a good way to start anything. We're going to heat that over medium-high heat until it's foaming. Now, another thing that I really like to have at arm's reach are all of my kitchen tools. When I'm in the middle of cooking and I need something, I hate having to use my messy hands to touch the drawer and open it, and then in some cases like rummage through the drawer to find what I'm looking for. So my most used kitchen tools are right here on the wall. We're just waiting for this butter. This is not just for me tonight. I'm also making this for neighbor dinner as part of the Claremont Mutual Aid Project. Oh, and look, I put all my cast iron pans on the wall. I have a terrible back, and bending over to get those things is not really working for me. So now I can use them more often and I don't have to bend over to get them. Anyway, here's the butter. It's pretty foamy. Oh God, I wish you could smell this. It's only gonna get better. Our onions. Yummy. Celery. And easy peasy. Love it. I'm gonna need to find a better way to film this. Maybe I need a sous chef / videographer. Stir that occasionally until it's beginning to brown. 6 to 8 minutes. Smells so good. So it's actually been about 10 minutes. It says to do this over medium-high heat, but I'm doing it over medium because I don't want to mess up my nonstick pan. So a lot of the moisture has been drawn out and it's just starting to get brown around the edges. Not sure if you can see that very well, but you'll just have to trust me that it is getting darker. Put a little bit of that lovely Maillard reaction on there. Can't remember if that guy, I'm assuming it was a guy, was a cook or a scientist. Cooks are kind of scientists though, so. The browning process, it's called the Maillard reaction. And that's where, so much flavor comes from. I'd say that this looks pretty good. We don't want to totally brown this stuff because some of the moisture that's left in there is going to help our meatloaf stay moist. So now we are going to add garlic, paprika, and when you add dried spices and stuff, sprinkle them all around the surface area. It makes it easier to incorporate it and make sure that you don't accidentally end up with like one bite of something that your entire teaspoon of paprika went into. Stir that up until, it says about 1 minute or until fragrant. It's already smelling delicious, but oh my God. Oops, well, see, that's why the dog's here. Puppy, pup up. Did you get that? Good job. Alright, so this is smelling delicious. This is what it looks like now that I've added the paprika and the thyme and the garlic. Oh, God, I wish you could smell this. Maybe that'll be the name of my cooking show. I wish you could smell this. Now we're going to add tomato juice. And if I was not using a non-stick pan, this would be a deglazing process. So you're going to kind of stir that around until all of the liquid has been incorporated and the water from the juice has evaporated. It smells delicious. It's good. So we can't put hot stuff in with raw meat because it will start cooking the meat immediately. So we're going to put this in one of our little bowls here. Grabbing a rubber scraper from my wall and I'm gonna scrape that, can you see, to the bowl. So yummy. So good. We're gonna let that cool down a little bit. It doesn't have to be room temperature, but we definitely don't want it to be as hot as it is right now. It's cooling down. While we're waiting for that to cool down, we can move on to the next step. So this recipe calls for 3 ounces of Monterey Jack. But unlike some recipes that just put a big old stick of cheese down the middle, no. this recipe, grate the cheese on the small holes and then put it in the freezer. The next instruction is to crumble it into a coarse mixture. I have always found that results in it kind of clumping together because of my hot hands. So the way that I do it now is I just do a coarse chop with my knife. This recipe is so yummy and it already smells so good. All right, that's good. I'm gonna put it back in the freezer for now until I need it. Just gonna clean up my workspace a little bit. So our next step is we're gonna get a bowl that we're gonna actually make the meatloaf mixture in. We're gonna add our broth, low sodium broth, eggs. I'm just gonna grab my whisk right off the wall. Lightly whisk the eggs and the broth until they're combined. There it is. We're gonna sprinkle some flavorless gelatin. And this is gonna help our meatloaf stay together. Gelatin is made from cows. Like, I think they're hooves or something. I don't know, we can look it up later. So it's still all beef, yay. We're gonna let that sit for 5 minutes to kind of activate the gelatin before we mix everything together. So I'll see you in just a little bit. So to prepare the pan, we do not use an actual loaf pan because that is just a good way to make a greasy ass hunk of meat. That's not what we want. So you gotta have a wire rack. I prefer the gridded kind. You set it inside a rimmed cookie sheet. And then you're gonna fold a piece of heavy duty foil. This is probably about 8 inches wide. And you put the foil on top of the wire rack and you're gonna poke holes in it. Don't poke holes in your hand. Then the foil's gonna have holes in it and that's how we're gonna let the grease escape. Just poke, poke, poke. I got my thermometer because I like the holes better. Keep poking, poke, 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 poke. Oh my God, this is boring. When is the meatloaf gonna be done? Poke, 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 poke. So we done poked it enough. And we're just gonna set that aside. So it's been 5 minutes since I sprinkled the gelatin. Right after I did that, I turned the oven on, preheat to 375. You want the rack in the middle position. All right, so in the big bowl where we have our broth and our eggs and the gelatin, we are going to add soy sauce, salt and pepper, Dijon mustard. Be sure to get all of it out. Parsley, crushed saltines. I know, it sounds like a super weird ingredient. It's in place of breadcrumbs or bread, which a lot of meatloaf recipes call for. So we're gonna mix up all of that stuff. The eggs, the broth, the gelatin, the soy sauce, the mustard, the salt, the pepper, the parsley, and the saltines. So we don't want to overmix this. And then we're gonna add the onion mixture that we made on the stove earlier. It's still kind of warm, but not very warm. So we're gonna add that in, mix it up so that it's all combined. Oh gosh, this smells so good. There we go. And now we're going to get our cheese. Just sprinkle that over the top of the mixture that's already in the bowl. When you're making meatloaf, you should not overwork it or over mix it because it will definitely start to mess with the texture of your finished product. Now I've sprinkled the cheese on the top of the mixture and here's my ground beef. Add that in there. This is a combination of ground sirloin and 85% lean chuck. If you can't afford the sirloin or if you can't find either of those things specifically, any 85% lean ground beef will suffice, but this results in the best flavor and texture. We're just gonna very gently combine this. All right, so this is the mixture, completely mixed up, ready to be formed into a loaf, which we will do now on our free-form loaf pan that we poked, and then set aside. Take all of that meat. That's a lot of meat. This is a lot of meat. I increased the recipe by 1/2 because I wanted to serve more people. So now that we've got a big hunk of meat here, God, this looks ridiculous. You're just going to very gently, because again, don't want to overwork it. You're going to gently form it into a loaf, right? Using the foil as a guide for the shape. You definitely want to keep it on the foil. Otherwise it will just start to fall through the holes in the wire rack. Lovely sound that meat makes. Oh, I looked up Maillard. Definitely was a dude. Luis Camille Maillard. He discovered that reaction that was named after him. It's a reaction of amino acids and reducing sugars that creates a browning effect and also creates hundreds of compounds of different flavors, depending on the temperature you're using, the kind of food you're cooking with, and then those flavors break down and create even more flavors. It's really incredible. You should look up this on Wiki. It's really interesting. Flavor scientists use that reaction to create artificial flavors. This looks pretty good. Doesn't have to be perfect. Perfectionism. If you know me, you know what I was about to say. So now we have our big old loaf of meat. Oh my gosh, that's gonna feed so many people. Food is my love language, giving and receiving. All right, so we're just gonna stick this bad boy in the oven for about 60 minutes, and then we're gonna make a glaze. That gives you a lot of time to clean up after yourself. While I was looking up stuff about Maillard, I should have been doing my dishes, but it's so heavy. Beautiful. It's not gonna be completely cooked when it comes out of the oven. We're gonna cook it until 135 to 140 Fahrenheit. And then we are going to turn the broiler on, stick that glaze on top of the meatloaf. The broiler is not only going to thicken the glaze, but it's also going to finish cooking the meatloaf because it'll be in the broiler 10-ish minutes. When you get to that part, it's really important that you keep an eye on it because you don't want it to burn. All right, dishes. Look at all those dishes. All right, did the dishes. Meatloaf is about 2/3 of the way done. Need a little saucepan, medium-ish heat, some ketchup, apple cider vinegar, ooh, yum, brown sugar, hot sauce. I'm using sriracha and coriander. Gonna bring that to a boil, reduce the heat. Almost done. Thickened up. It's kind of syrupy. My timer just went off. Let's check on this thing. Oh, the glass is fogged up. Gonna check and make sure that this is done enough. Remember, we want it between 135 and 140. That's above 140, so it's good. Turn the broiler on. Put about half of this glaze on. I wish you could smell this. Oh, my show could be like a drinking game. Every time I say, I wish you could smell this, take a drink. All right, that's gorgeous. Smells delicious. Oh my God. All right, into the broiler. All right, this has been in the broiler for about 5 minutes. Looks delicious, smells delicious. We're gonna put the rest of the glaze on now. All right, so just apply more glaze for the second go round. All right, here we go. Back into the broiler for 5 minutes. You're gonna take it out when it gets bubbly and little black spots are beginning to form. 5 minutes. Salud, slancha, l'chaim. Cheers. What a journey, y'all. Thanks for sticking in there with me. It's not ready to eat, but it's done. Oh my God, can you see that? I don't know what's more beautiful, the meatloaf or all of the clean dishes. The meatloaf. So I don't know how well you can see, but it was really bubbly up here and we've got some black marks. That's not bad. That's just gonna add some flavor. It's so gorgeous. You have to let it sit for 20 minutes. First of all, it is way too hot to eat. Second of all, if you cut into it now, it's just gonna fall apart. It needs some time to cool down and then it'll be ready to dig into. See you in 20 minutes. All right. Oh, baby. There is our sliced meatloaf. Looks delicious. Ready to take next door to our unhoused neighbors. There's my little taster plate. Aw, so cute. There's a close-up of the meatloaf. I really wish you guys could smell this. You know what? So good. Okay. Thanks for coming along on this journey with me. Cheers. We just got home, so now we get a second opinion. What do you think?
Fabuloso.
Thanks, y'all.